Welcome back. Going to do a different intro this time. Veteran transformation. That's what we're all about at War Hero to Superhero. And we're in the Superhero Battle Room. Specifically, our guest today is in that space on veteran transformation, specifically with females. So we're going to bring Christina in and talk about veteran transformation, but we're going to visit a little about her past before we jump into that present. But our goal and our heart here at War Hero to Superhero is to go over and to have you transform. So since she is the other half of transformation, helping female vets, it was a great guest to go bring in. So we're going to bring her to the forefront to help you transform. Hey, Christine, do I have you?
Hey, good to be here. Thank you.
All right, awesome. Let's go jump in because, again, veteran transformation is my heart and you're helping females out. But what inspired you first to go into the military?
You know, that's always a great story. So I actually came into the military in 1988 at the end of my sophomore year of college because I needed the money and got hooked, fell in love with it, and literally spent 32 and a half years in uniform, believe it or not. I like to tell people I lost track of time because I was just enjoying it so much. So I came in for the money and fell in love with it. And my dad was my recruiter too, by the way. So that's always a good spin on the story.
Your dad was the recruiter?
Yeah, my dad was my recruiter. Yep.
Wow. So I'm assuming he's retired too then?
He did retire. He passed away a little over 3 years ago, but he got to see my entire career and was such a huge supporter of everything I did and everything I wanted to do. So, yes.
Wow. That is a long time. I'm hitting year 24 right now, but still, even when I hear those big numbers, that is a very long time.
It is. It was my most of my adult life, to be honest. So if you do the math, I'm 56 now, spending that much time in uniform, raising a family, everything. So yes.
Wow. You admitted the age on it's never going to be back.
Hey, so it doesn't matter. It's just a number to me. And my daughters are like, yeah, we can't phase our mom. You know, this is what her age is. I'm like, it doesn't bother me. It's just a number. So
that's really cool. So when did you leave? And you already talked about how long you were in, but when did you actually leave?
I actually retired from the military July 1st of 2020. So it's been just over 4 years that I left the military. And it has been quite the adventure and ride since then, to be honest.
Well, we're about to get into that question in a second about that transition. So 2020, in the midst of COVID started March of 2020, and now you got out like 4 months later. So how was that transition?
It was probably the most easiest time to clear anything on an installation, to be honest, because they'd shut a lot of things down. I just had to do the bare minimums to get out. You know, I'd already done the TAPS training like a year before, but yeah, that was probably the easiest I've ever moved from a duty station, whether it was PCSing or not, to leave. But it was still weird at the same time because I didn't get to do those fun retirement activities that a lot of people do with the lunches and the get-togethers because everything was shut down. So yeah, it was a unique opportunity. We'll leave it at that. So, but yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, because I think it would be very difficult in that particular regard because you got COVID, remote work, all those other types of things. I remember being in this garage because this is where I tape, but I was literally in COVID going over and trying to do work. And every hour it's like, VPN's not up. Come back in an hour. So
I can take it one further for you. So I was actually an LNO between Cyber Command and Northcom. And so you understand the classification levels we work at with those systems. I literally was told, as were the other LNOs globally, hey, just stay home, call us once a day and let us know you're live, because we couldn't do anything from the house because of the TS systems we had to work on. So I literally started the process of sitting around, I'm going to call that, in the middle of March, before I even had a chance, like 5-6 weeks later, to even start clearing post to move back home to North Carolina because I was in Colorado Springs. So that really got me thinking on a lot of things earlier than I planned, to be honest. But yeah, it was a unique experience to be doing it that way.
Yeah, I would say the least. I'm like, at least I was on class. All my stuff. Yeah. It's like I training manager background, Air Force. forces. So that job is like, oh, when people go over and like, oh, you want to go try to grab the military person, no secrets. I'm like, I have nothing that you can't find on epublishing.af.mil.
Yep.
So if you ever capture me and be like, I want to know everything, I'm like, you're going to know nothing and you're going to be bored to tears.
Yeah, my conversations at the end of work days with everybody was, well, how's your day? It was fine. And that's all I could discuss. My daughters thought it was fun to let their friends know that I was a spy because I fell under the NSA umbrella and because I couldn't talk about what I did. So yeah, it was a fun joke. It was a fun last 2 years, to be honest. Having the opportunity of doing a joint assignment, which are just hard to get sometimes because I was AGR at the time as well. But it was a lot of fun. I mean, I worked with some amazing people, and that's what I always miss about the military are the people. Some job assignments, as you know, are fun, exciting, but it's always the people that I wind up missing, not so much the bureaucratic red tape that we have to deal with sometimes.
Yeah, I would definitely go over and agree with that. It's not like you go and like, I missed that regulation. I missed that email. I
Yeah.
love when my systems don't work and they crash on a constant basis. No one's like doing it. It's
Yeah,
not like
no.
somebody's at their funeral, at the, let's say their deathbed, and they're like, man, I missed the chaos of work. No one ever
Honestly,
says it.
honestly, I don't. So
hmm So going with that you got out in 2020, what made you pivot to get into veteran transformation? Not many people go over and do that. I mean, I don't even brand it as transition. I brand it as transformation, as you're seeing in the whole entire thing. But what
yeah.
made you pivot to that? Because that
So
is a rough
what is
path.
beautiful is actually earlier this week, I finally had the epiphany that I was a transformational coach because I'd been trying to figure out for a while what I was. So what started it was we leave active duty or we leave anything military related. We go through TAP. They give you 50 pounds of information in a 5-pound bag and they pat you on the back and say, see you later. Thanks. What they fail to do, in my opinion, is showing us that it's okay to start being ourselves again, to do that self-discovery, it's okay to learn how to dress again and talk and things because it's been so embedded for so long on how we're supposed to be. We forget who we are, or coming in super young like I did at 20, we don't even know who we are at 20, let alone 18 or 17-year-olds. And then they're thrown out into this big bad world, as I'm calling it, and they flounder. The common thread that I have caught talking to veterans on and off for literally 4 years is they don't have a purpose in life now because that mission is gone, or they just don't know who they are. And I was on my own journey with these two topics as soon as I got out. It was literally like, I didn't even know who I was. And here I am trying to build businesses at the time and doing networking and stuff. So that's really what got me started was my own personal journey, going inwards, trying to find the tools to help me figure things out. And it took me a while. And I finally came across one. And honestly, I've had a coach the whole time. I think that was one of the best things that I could have invested in with myself and my time is having someone there who is kind of walking the same path with her own self-discovery, with her own business aspect and helping others. So that was a huge step as well. I mean, just having somebody. Trying to go this alone, I think, is where we fail sometimes. Some people can do this. Some people can't. So that's why you have something there, a community of individuals on the same path as you, it's easier because you're like a trailblazer. You're a trailblazer with what you share here with the world. Getting our voices and our stories out is also very important. And that's really what got me started as well, was sharing my own story with somebody. A random stranger one day reached out to me on LinkedIn and wanted to interview me and just say, hey, let's just talk, answer questions. 90 minutes later, that's when I realized how powerful our stories are as veterans. It doesn't matter how long you were in or what you did. If you can share and talk about it and you're willing to, do it because it's so healing. I found it healing. So yes.
No, I would totally agree in that particular regard. For me, it was 12 years of active duty, and I'm still a reservist now. And it took me breaking my back to really go over and to figure out those things.
Yeah.
So, and I say, it's like, I think you're right on the coaching part. We all need a coach, even if we are coaches,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
that particular regard, because you get out and you did 32 years of, it sounds like, active duty and AGR, which is all great revenue. I miss those days. I have people that right next to me, because I'm the air reserve technician. So it's like,
Yep.
I wear the uniform and I'm not getting paid like you in the benefits.
Yeah.
So we're all really tired, and the AGR is all great revenue.
Yeah.
And it's like, you get out, especially if you get out as either as a traditional reservist or a traditional guardsman, or you separate, it's even harder because you don't even have the financial buffer
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
figure
You're
out that
right.
identity.
Yeah. And that was my big goal from the beginning, when I understood that I could do 20 years and have something coming in for the rest of my life. And the fact that I was in love with what I was doing. I had a lot of challenges reaching that point. It wasn't only just doing initially National Guard enlisted, and then going over to ROTC and commissioning, active duty for almost 10 years, reserve side for several years, and then AGR in the reserve sides for 13 years. So I kind of have a feel of all of those environments. I respect everyone because we all do the same job. Just it's like a puzzle. You can't have a complete puzzle if you're missing a piece, and that's what we are, and that's what the branches are combined as well. But I think that, just don't know where my train of thought went. I love when that happens. So yeah, it was a goal. And when you have a goal, you have to work on those, doing everything you can to get there. And I did. Leaving active duty, I knew it was going to become even harder to hit that goal. But I just kept nugging away at it. I never gave up. And that was just part of my own determination and own resiliency with everything that was going on in my personal life to make it happen. And getting into what I do now and being able to look back on my past that way, I understand why I did the things I did for the better. Nothing bad what I did, but I understand why I was able to persevere through those hard times, because it's in my design, my personal design of who I am. So,
And we're going to get into that in a second on our next question, actually.
sure.
Kind of great transition point. Looks like you knew the questions in advance. Wait a minute, I give everybody the questions in advance. So what was the secret fuel when the pressure and the tough times come? Maybe it was when you were on active duty. Maybe it was the transition of getting out. Maybe it was other trials. But what is that secret fuel that you have when those tough times come?
For me, it was always my family. I have 3 amazing daughters, and everything I did from the minute they came into my world till now was to make the world a better place. And I held on to that. And my belief was, being in the military and being a part of a bigger team that was out to make the world a better place was exactly what I needed to do, where I needed to be. And to be that amazing role model for them and to show them that things can be tough, but then how to calmly navigate that, how to try to keep your emotions in check to a point, which is something that's not easy to do a lot of times. But I have a natural ability of just remaining extremely calm under the craziest pressure sometimes. And it's almost scary to me when I look back on it. But I guess a lot of us have learned how to lock those emotions away, and we get the job done. So pivoting out, I had to learn how to literally unpack all these duffel bags, I call them. I had built this massive wall of duffel bags around me of every little thing that had transpired in my life. And I had to learn how to process those emotions. Now it's easier to actually let those emotions I embrace them better. I let them flow through quicker so I can process them better. I no longer compartmentalize and lock them away like we're used to doing. So I think that's probably been one of my biggest things that kind of got me through in uniform, which was how to lock them away and just contain them. And now out of the uniform, it's how to truly just live with those emotions and the memories and on just going with it, if that makes sense, going with the flow. They don't scare me anymore. So, but I'm also much more calmer too, because I'm not in a stressful environment. So that's a beautiful thing. So
I would definitely agree. I think that whole compartmentalizing thing is good in only the moment.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then if you don't go over and deal with it, there is a quote, I wish I could remember it, but I'm going to paraphrase it. It's like, your true maturity is your emotional maturity and where you stop developing. So if you compartmentalize, let's say for me, I went through sexual trauma, parents' divorce, brother's death. That's like one of the main things that made me. I was emotionally stunted between 9 to 15 years old for about 15 to 20 years. So even though I was a 35-year-old male reservist and husband and father and have 4 kids and everything else, those first 7 years of marriage, I was between a 9 and 15-year-old because I compartmentalized it.
Yeah.
And this was even before getting in the military.
Yeah.
So when you just do it in the moment, but then you hold on to it, you stay perpetually stuck.
Yeah, you can. Yep.
And the mind is an amazing thing compared to the body. And I'm going to
Oh,
utilize
big
what I
time.
did with my body. I drank enough water, I burped. I wasn't trying to, but it happened. But in our mind, in our sense, we don't mentally burp
Right.
to relieve the pressure. So when we compartmentalize, we're just taking that undue. And when we go, it's more not just a burp, it's almost like an emotional explosion.
Yeah, it can
So
be.
sometimes we need to relieve the pressure. Because if I held that all in and kept doing that, this podcast would go to a medical emergency. But in the
No,
mental
I get it.
side,
Yeah.
in the mental side, we don't look at we're having mental emergencies, emotional emergencies, spiritual emergencies because we keep compartmentalizing. So
Yeah.
I think that's
So-
key of what you did is that when you got out, okay, I can go over and do that. But I think we need to practice that more while we're in and have that
We
safe
do. We
space.
do. And my pressure relief valve while in with all those bagged emotions literally was just running. I would go run, and miles after miles because that's how I kind of release some of that pressure buildup without having the crazy explosions going on. So, and now that I've learned to just live with my emotions as they come to me and things like that, I now know that I don't need to run as much. So I'm not putting that wear and tear on my body anymore. But now I've fallen in love with weight training, something I used to hate. So it's a beautiful trade-off either way. But you're right. We all have trauma from some age up,
That's
and
really cool.
learning
I
to
mean,
deal with it. Yep.
yeah, I can't run anymore. So that was never my pressure relief valve per se, but I do miss it. I do miss it. So I'm not much of a weight trainer. I'm more of a VR trainer. I actually have my VR headset right onto the side. So
Got it.
I do VR workouts. So let's get into tactics because we're talking about the emotions, the spiritual stuff, and everything else and whatnot, all mixed. 3 superhero tactics. So you're working with female veteran clients now, or you could look at yourself when you got out of service, either direction.
Right.
What is the 3 specific tactics if you only had maybe a couple minutes with them, or you were making your reel because we're 90 seconds or less of attention span?
Yeah.
What would be those 3 tactics to get you or your clients to go from surviving to thriving?
Goodness, we could go on forever on this. I think what I try to do now that I'm actually putting together a program to work with people this way is I want to show them that they have the power within them to live whatever life they choose to live. And that's the key factor right there. We all do. We're all born with the answer inside of us, but that's not what we're taught. We're taught to go to school, follow the rules, get a job, get married, have a job, retire. When in fact, you can become anything you want to become. Think of it when you were a kid, we all wanted to be something when we were little. For me, I wanted to fly jets at one point, wanted to be an astronaut at another point. But then as we get older, we're told, okay, you can't dream that stuff anymore. You'll never make it. Can't do it. And then we just kind of fall into these boxes. We have to fit into these boxes. We can't spill open out. We can't be a round peg trying to go into a square hole. And I think if people understand that the power is inside of you to become the person that you truly want to become, it's like a light bulb moment for those who are open to really hear that message come out initially. Because once they understand that they have the power to do what they want to do, then it's easy for them to move the noisy roommate aside in their head, as I call it. That little naggy voice that says, you can't do this. What are you doing? This is not right. Don't do it that way. And just starting to listen to that inner voice, your soul, as it's called. If you start listening to your soul, it's been talking to you the whole time. You just stopped listening to it. And it's going to guide you and kind of help you along the path that you want to go. It's going to empower you. And that's all I want to do is empower women and give them a community that they feel safe in to grow and learn together, and to find that clarity and to find that purpose that they're looking for again. Does that help?
I mean, mostly if the audience goes resonates with that. I mean, I think
Yeah,
it fit very well. If I had to summarize it real quick, it's like find your voice, find your soul, and shut up the nagging neighbor or whatever word you used. I lost it.
We call it the noisy roommate. So
The
that voice
noisy
in your
roommate.
head. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
find your
It's a
voice,
good
find your
start.
soul, and to go over and shut up the noisy roommate. So there we go.
Yeah.
And we always allow people to craft what they're going to craft. I mean, I've had some people just stall and they were like, I don't have anything. And I'm like, okay, we'll just go with that. So I want to thank you, Christine, for coming on the show. The last part of the show is about you and what you're going over and doing. And if you have an awesome quote, we will go over and listen to that. And once you have a 2-second pause, that's when we go to credits. So the floor is now yours.
Oh my goodness. So let me tell you, 4 years, and I'm just getting started and figuring out really who I am and my purpose in life. But I have always resonated with helping my fellow female veterans out, because if I'm struggling with these things, they are too. And they are probably the most quiet out of all the voices out there in the veteran world, because a lot of us feel like we're done proving ourselves. We're done working extra hard to do the same thing and reach the same items that the men have reached. Nothing against men, but it's harder for us, honestly. And we get out, we don't want to tell people that we served, we wore the uniform. We're very quiet in the background. We deal with our own stuff on our own terms. And I want to be able to show them that there are other ways to do this. So if they're having that naggy feeling of there's so much more out there, who am I? What is my purpose in life now that I don't serve in the military? That's where I've kind of stepped in now. I have test drove several things myself because I want to make sure that what I present to others is easy. It's something that they can take and do on their own, number one. So it's almost a self-study concept, but you need that community support as well to do this. But I've come across 2 tools that have been very beneficial the last year plus. So I've been studying what's called human design, as well as gene keys. Now, a lot of people are going to say these are woo-woo topics, and you could look at them that way. But I find that they have really answered a lot of questions for me on the personal side. I can study these items, look back at my career in the military, and I can now see why I was the way I was back then, if that makes any sense. And now I can see what my purpose in life is, which is to empower others and to provide them tools so that they can find their purpose. I mean, it just beautifully fit with what I was already thinking and talking about 2-3 years before I found these tools. And now it just validates that. So that's what I'm working on doing. Literally earlier this week, like I was telling you, I finally came up with a program name. And this I want to share because it lights my world on fire. And that's something that I need also to resonate and grow. Is I call it the Voyage of the Valhalla. We all know voyages are at least a year plus long, because what I'm doing and what I'm going to offer is not a quick fix. It's a lifelong study, which is good. You go at your own pace. And Valhallas, as we know, are just shield maidens in the veteran world. They're the Norse mythology who came down and collected the dead warriors off the field and took them to Valhalla back, kind of thing. So that really resonates with me because I feel that the voyage of the shield maiden, of the woman warrior, female veterans, it's important. And by taking them on this journey of a year long or longer, if they choose to stay, they're going to learn the same tools that I'm learning. They can go at their own pace. It's going to empower them. It's going to help them find that clarity for their purpose. It's going to be a holistic approach for them to heal and identify themselves if that's what they need. And I just super excited about it. I mean, like I said, so much so I just finally came up with this. It took me getting super quiet and closing out that noisy roommate because she wants to take over my brain sometimes, and just listening to what the universe was trying to tell me on what to do, because whatever I do, if it's got to light me up, otherwise I can't do it. It's just, now that I understand those things, when I get frustrated, I know that it's not the right thing for me to do. But this one I want to stand on the rooftop and shout it to the world. So I'm so excited to be bringing it here for the first time, at least to get it out there and committing to it. So that's why I want to do what I do. I don't care how long it takes me to get there, but to be able to gather a community of these amazing warrior women like me and to work on things, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, I hope that kind of answered, or at least let people know what I'm up to over here. But yes,